So, welcome, Nisha, to the Animas alumni interviews. Thank you so much for being here. How are you doing today?
Oh, thanks, Adie. Such a pleasure and such a joy to come and join you today in having this conversation. The sun is shining brightly in Cardiff, and since moving to the UK, I've definitely learned to appreciate the sun much more. So it's a good one today, a better one, shall I say?
Amazing. I'm so glad it's spring now, isn't it? We've had a tough winter, but so I'm excited to hear about your experience. And if it's okay with you, Nisha, just to start off with letting everyone know who you are and what you do, that'd be great.
I'm Nisha Harichandran, a joy coach, and I support and help my clients to choose joy, especially on the hardest days. We all know what it's like, and a CV that's quite colorful, quite polished, quite exceptional on paper, but the behind the scenes life can be quite unfulfilling. And on the darkest days when the clouds are, the grayest, the stormiest, it's difficult to appreciate what's going well around you. And these are the moments, we kind of really look into to see what joy is all about and coming back to your journey.
So excited to ask more about the being the joy coach. I'm curious what brought you to coaching. What's your background? What how was that transition like? Sure.
It was my late trainer, actually. Her name is Eleni Sarantino. She passed away a couple of years ago. And she was my NLP trainer. NLP is neuro linguistics programming. And it was something that was introduced to us at a team building event while I was still in law. So my background, Eddie, was and by trade is a lawyer. Did that for about 15 years in terms of private practice and also then as an in-house counsel in the education and telecommunication sector. So I'd always kept in touch with Eleni over the years, and I did like personal, and I do very much enjoy personal development. Growing up, the family is more of a values-based household. So I didn't know the word for gratitude then. It was always thank you for this, thank you for that, and yeah, it seemed a bit odd thanking your parents for stuff, but it was always built around that. And then when I moved to the UK, it was just a month before COVID, and that necessitated just a pivot, a relook in terms of career direction, etc. And I explored content creation and went into the communications line, which I enjoyed and really had the opportunity to lead internal communications. And Eleni came back again, and I did my master NLP during this time. And she said, why don't you think about coaching? You enjoy culture, connections, conversations. You've lived and worked abroad. You very much have been through these various transitions, ups and downs. And I said, yeah, and I've kind of navigated them, found my path, only because I've really enjoyed those friendships along the way and just found what really excited me. And I love travel. So, all of that kind of kept me going even when things were quite tough. And I hopped around. I said, okay, coaching, what is coaching? I thought it was one of those Dear Thelma columns that write an article and read a letter on a Sunday page. And I looked into it. There was somebody on LinkedIn or one of the small business communities that I was a part of at that time who had trained in Animas. And I reached out to find out what it was like, attended the open day, and yeah, I said, okay, let's give this a go. And I'm so glad I did. So glad I did. I think just the word animas and what it means, and the concept of transformation, that whole inner journey, and having done that over the years, working and looking at change from within rather than an external piece, it really spoke to me.
Yeah, yeah. I think what's really unique as well with your journey, Nisha, because I read your website and your about page. Absolutely amazing. I highly recommend it to everyone. We'll link it down in the video. Is that there wasn't a drastic thing that happened. Like you said, it's yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't a journey that started from an unfortunate incident or something like that, you know. It was more like, no, I was doing something, I was getting through with things, etc., and all of that. And I'm not going to deny and say that, you know, it wasn't like hard or difficult. There were no challenging moments. Of course there were. We'd be, you know, fooling ourselves if we say that, you know, life was just a cruise road, just roses along the way. There were many, many thorns, but I seemed to find a way through. I didn't know what I was doing at that time, obviously, but somehow or other, you know, either with the support of friends or, again, as I said, this whole values based household growing up, you know, finding that silver lining no matter what, you know. And my mom, she's, wow, if storytelling had an award for mothers, she would definitely bag it, because it was always about noticing the tiniest of details. And, you know, looking at life through her eyes, you notice that, you know, any path, and you understand why the experience is so different for all of us that walk on the same path. She would notice, you know, the little flowers, the buds, you know, something going on, and you're like, you know, this should definitely be GPS navigation one on one. So I guess all of that kind of fed into my perspective as I was approaching life. And with coaching, it gave me the tools. It gave me another language to communicate. It gave me the framework, and it said,
Mm,
here it is. And then suddenly, you know, it's like the pieces of the puzzle started to fit in.
mhm,
So
mhm,
it started making more sense in terms of, you know, why certain days were better, why certain situations were more difficult or challenging, and what was my response in these different situations that determined the outcome.
mm, mm. So I think this is lending into your work now, with yeah, your clients. Could you share, what does your work look like now? A lot of people ask that after qualification. Yeah.
After qualification, yes. And I think, you know, for fellow friends listening to this video and who have chosen to train with Animas, you know, just remember to learning to crawl first before you walk, and then to run and to fly, because we we know we can fly. You know, we trust our wings. We know that from past experiences or just being able to do things. But then you're moving into a new space. And I feel, you know, just speaking on my own journey, the initial excitement was like, oh, I can do this and and I can do that. Or, you know, that's where your eye is on at the end of the tunnel in terms of what needs to be done as soon as you come out. But being self-employed was a new journey again. So lots of unlearning as much as learning happens, and, you know, one foot in front of the next. So just wanted to lay that out up front first, because it's quite easy to get sidetracked
Mhm,
as you go on. And when you look at social medias and, you know, seeing other people who have been in the journey ahead of you, etc., comparison again is a thief of joy, you know. So looking at that, you start doing your own little benchmark, but know that no two circumstances are the same.
mhm,
So, you know, just chart your own path, your own journey. What does work look like now? It's really varied, Addy, really varied. So from one-to-one coaching clients to running more workshops and facilitating these training days and sessions, in addition to being mentors at universities for, you know,
amazing. Mhm,
former alumni or other professionals who are kind of stepping into their career or charting their path, and on various topics. So it's quite varied, and I'm really enjoying it. I think that's I feel I've really found my passion in terms
yeah.
of what a work day would look like, and enjoying the variety in terms of what comes up, as well as continuing to feed that that sense of learning and continuing being that student. So I'm really enjoying it.
Amazing. Um, I think what would be really useful, I don't know if this can be worded actually, Nisha. So you've talked about your mum, the values-based upbringing and how that really contributed to your approach. What was it like integrating that into what you've learned in the course in terms of like the coaching? Does that make sense? You know, because people tend to ask how to find their niche. And I suppose this is a niche in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
What did that process look like? I mean,
Values exercises is such an important part, isn't it, in terms of coaching? And it's coming back to those core values again. What do you
mm-hmm.
really want to anchor down in? Because your well, there's sorry, might want to edit that with my little
No,
situations.
better.
I'll just repeat. So yeah, values-based exercise is such an important part and a core in coaching and anchoring on what those values are to you, be it personally, professionally, and if you take a closer look, they tend to be very similar in terms of how you would like to show in your professional life is how you want to show up in your personal life as well. So knowing what those values are, what those beliefs and that you are leaning into to support those values that turn and channel into your own behaviors and actions, and then looking at to see like what's going to be important to you in terms of achieving this, because that's where this whole purpose and meaning and feeding into all of that comes. Because if you just go by what is popular or what's fashionable in that state, there's no stopping you. And choosing a niche, I feel, leans very much into that. So this question came about a lot as we were going through the course, picking your niche, or do you be a generalist, etc. And that debate fueled a lot of discussion within the course, outside the course, etc. And the one thing that really stayed with me was joy, because that is what is most important. And when it's taken away from you, that's what you value the most. So why not bring that into your everyday? And
Mm-hmm.
joy to me is also that journey of you. And I've
Mm-hmm.
been a very strong advocate of mapping out the journey of your own life. So it may be a path that you may want to walk alone sometimes because it's a little bit unpopular, or doing something which may be a little bit unfashionable in terms of prioritizing you, rather than self-sacrificing in relation to all of that. But it's important. It's important that you keep supplying from an overflowing well, rather than something that's really drawn up. So joy, then I was like, yep, joy coach and best job title ever.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. I do get that, you know, from you in this conversation, and infused in everything I think that you
Thank,
have. Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
that's
And
amazing.
another part of my work is also speaking, Addy. So I do give
Mm-hmm.
talks, etc. And this really comes up during those conversations, either as sidebar conversations or joy. What does that even mean? Are you just making people happy? Is one that I often get asked. And I said, no, joy is about choices. It's about those choices at every moment that we can make. It's really a discipline, because it is hard, it is hard to say that, I'm choosing to bring more joy into my life. You get feedback that's quite tough, and you look at it and you're like, oh, that's not the prettiest thing to be kind of be excited about, or something that really makes your day. But if you take that lens of, this is something that fuels my growth, it's not failure, but it's really a chance to reset. And the fact that somebody has gone out of their way to share this with me, which means there's an element of care in terms of
Mm-hmm.
how it may come. And knowing this now, I could do it differently or even better the next round. But not again shying away from not expressing the frustration that you receive or experience when you do get a piece of comment or a thought that, it's quite hard, give yourself that space, give yourself that space to just pour it out, go for a walk, do what you need to do. I think my new favorite thing in the gym is the ski.
Oh,
Because
oh
it's like,
yes.
a quick burst, a 30-second, a 30-second intense thing to just channel all that energy,
Mm,
putting it out into something productive,
mm,
get that steam out,
mm,
and then come back and look at it with fresh eyes and say, like, right, okay, so what can I do about this?
mm.
So
Yeah, didn't quite connect that before, the joy that it's a discipline, that it's the choosing in every moment. So it's about intention.
it's
Uh,
intention, it's
mhm,
choices, as
mhm,
every path that we walk, where are we leaning? Where's our mind kind of being guided to? Something that's happened. It's so easy to focus on what didn't go well.
mhm,
And it
mhm,
comes down to, just us being from our hunter gatherer ancestors, the mind being really protective and, from a path that is taking you towards danger. But it's really a form of protection if you think about it, right? When things like fear, etc., creeps up, it's because it's seen you on that path before, a path of heartbreak or a path of tears, a path of, not being able to deal with what was going on. So it's like, oh, let's just put a stop sign right here and get you back on track. But choosing joy, then it's like, right, understanding where this fear is kind of stemming from, what were the patterns in the past that may have happened that is kind of giving you these signals, because the mind is almost like a folder. So it's sorting things out based on past experiences. When a similar incident has occurred, it's replaying and saying, right, here's what happened the last round. This was your response. This was the outcome.
mhm,
But
mhm,
learning to say, like, okay, but today is different. That's why it's, anchoring back into today, this very moment, this now, this present moment, and saying, well, today is different because I've done this, this, and this. I'm here now in terms of experience and I want to try something different. And the
mhm,
more we kind of exercise that muscle, a new choice, a new path, a new option starts opening up.
mhm,
So when a similar incident comes again or a similar situation, we've got two choices instead of one.
mhm, mhm.
And the
Yeah.
more we exercise the newer choice, the stronger that becomes. And they call that now neuroplasticity, in terms of just the new highways that are opening up within us. So it's truly a choice. And we can't go back and rewrite the past. So it's quite heartbreaking to sit down and go through those moments and say, like, oh well, I could have done this like 10 years ago, or to my younger self. And hence it gives me immense satisfaction now to be able to be a mentor for other alumni or just other people in who are just coming out of university or during their careers, because it's giving back, and it's always seeing my younger self saying, like, right, I wish I was there with you at that point, and this is what I could have shared. So I've actually taken it to a LinkedIn newsletter now. I've called it Welcoming Wednesdays, and I write this is a thematic letter to my younger child, to my inner child, in terms of a message, because I feel I was younger yesterday than I was today. So there's always the sense of comfort and also a cheer for her to, for her courage to keep showing up to life.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. There's so much to touch on there. It's so inspiring. And it really talks through the process of coaching with clients, finding their own agency, and that neuroplasticity, like you said, it's the opening, sorry, it's the building of experiences that is different from before. Um, I'm wondering if there are any standout coaching journeys you've had with your clients that maybe showcase this, or maybe anything that just stands out to you that you'd love to share. Yeah.
I feel that the philosophy that was repeated to us over and over again during coaching, that the client is creative, resourceful, and whole.
Yeah.
that they don't need fixing, they can find their own path. And it's amazing the solutions that they come up with. And you are there as a mirror, really truly reflecting them. And I think one of my favorite moments, one, of course, the ahas that happen, during a session, and you see that twinkle in the eye when they have figured a way out or found something, and you echo it back to them and said, well, these are words from you, not me. I've just put them in some perspective, but it's all you. And at the end, when they sum up that one insight that they're taking away or the message to themselves, and there's so much power that comes hearing your own voice, echoing it back out to you. And even if your own physical body feels like it's gloomy or it's unable to proceed further, there's almost this inner compass or wisdom that comes up and says, you know what, I got you. Because when they share that back, it's like, and then they're like, oh, I didn't know. I feel quite strongly within that, I've got myself, and I will take this forward, and I do trust myself to be able to do this. So yeah, it's always fascinating with each conversation.
Yeah, yeah. So it's almost like the inner compass inevitably comes out in
Inevitably
coaching.
comes out.
Yeah.
And I think to be able to listen to that compass a little bit more, it's that level of clarity. And I think that's what is offered in the coaching space, especially when we are holding clients through silence, or through their emotions in those various stages, and just being with them at every stage. I think it's so powerful just to feel that the client has trusted you to be, to hold that space for them. And it's quite humbling during that time. I remember in my initial years, it was a little bit tricky when, clients were emotional. It was like, oh, what do I do now? And, do I just continue talking, or what do I do? What do I say? Do I go and rescue? Like, what do you do? And then I'd taken it up for further discussion, and it was no, the client has trusted you to hold the space for them. Stay with them during this time, hold that space, keep holding that space. So it also really tests you as a coach in terms of what's going on for you during these times, and something, for further reflection. But it's such it's truly an honor, I think, just being with a client during that time. And the coaching space just unlocks a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What helped you I suppose what helped you hold that space, in the beginning when there was, okay, I'm not sure how to hold this. What has contributed to you being to
It
do
was
that?
definitely tougher in the beginning. It was definitely much tougher in the beginning, because you put your experiences, you're projecting your experiences when you're listening to what a client is talking. And you recognize the signs, because again, you're projecting your own experience, listening to them. And you're like, oh, I've been down that path. I know somebody who has been down that path. And your mind is so chatty at that point to yourself, going like, don't go there. I can, give you a shortcut and come through this rescuer that wants to come out and stop. And then they say, like, no, it's their journey. They take responsibility for their actions, and the solutions that you come up with are not even what they had considered, because they come up with their own solution which supports them. So that's, with the initial part of training, etc., you go through these sessions, and then you realize, okay, one by one, right, okay, it is the client's journey. And what supported me during that time was just checking back, reminding myself, okay, this is my responsibility as a coach. How can I be of service to the client? Is me really sitting still, me really sitting still,
Mm,
holding the space. So it helped to kind of, just prep a little bit for the session, take a bit of a walk, just relax, come down, and just sit down, ground myself, and then hold the space for the client. And I think most importantly is trust. Trust that you yourself are enough in that moment. Trust that the client knows the journey and the client knows what to do. Because no conversation is the same, Addy. The client could be with me, you, 10 other people. We could have 10 very different conversations that come up. And as I said before, comparison is a thief of joy. So use that for your own learning, for your own reflection. What could be done different or better going forward, and take that as a continued process.
Oh, amazing. That trust is so big in ourselves and in our training, but also trust in that client, truly to believe that they are resourceful and creative and they're
Mm.
whole. Amazing. Um, how about your work? You mentioned that you do workshops and then the mentoring in universities. People are always curious about how do you even get those opportunities? So any insights into getting those opportunities we'd love to hear.
Of
Nisha.
course. And just keep showing up. I think that would be the first one. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So keep showing up in terms of who you are, what you can offer, what value you're bringing. So that trust starts with you before you can trust the path forward. Trust that, you will create that path, and knock on doors, ask for opportunities.
Right.
Don't
Yeah.
don't let it be a catch-22 situation saying that, I've got to have this much experience before I go and do something, because you're already coming into the profession with a lot of experience. I may have been new to coaching, but I was a lawyer. I did work in corporates for like 18 plus years. So, I'm definitely bringing in a lot in terms of what I'm able to offer to clients, to all of that. But it requires a bit of remembering that, you are coming in with something. It is something, coaching is just a new skill that you're putting into practice, and just start small, and do a bit of networking as well. Just go into different rooms, talk to people, find out what's going on. And it's not a sales conversation. That's the other thing, because otherwise there's a lot of pressure. Every conversation that you go into, you want to make a sale, you want to close the deal. But just go in open, have a conversation, be really curious about what people are doing, what they're talking about, because all this is market research for you as well. And then try out different things. Don't be shy, because you're putting in new tools. Even as you develop a presentation, each audience is different as well. So just keep trying, keep showing up, and keep knocking on doors is what I would say.
So it's basically networking and doing your own reaching out essentially, isn't
Reaching
it?
out, because don't stop yourself. I think many times we say no before somebody else says no,
Yeah.
right? We've
Yes.
gone and shut that door for ourselves before we can
Yes.
even go out.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
what's the worst thing that could happen? Somebody just says no, or maybe they just don't respond to your email. That could be the
Yes.
other thing. Just don't get back to you. But at least you tried.
Hmm.
At least you tried. So don't let that deter you. So just one foot in front of the next. And as I said earlier, learn to crawl, and then get up and walk, and then look around your environment, etc. So the other thing that supported me was continuing to hone my craft. So based on what I was taught at Animas, and I really enjoyed the variety of frameworks. It's finding out where your interest lies, because there's so many styles of coaching, and the more tools you have, the more you can add to your playbook.
Yeah.
So that
Hmm.
was the other thing, keep exploring, keep learning, keep growing in your expertise. Don't just do one thing and saying that I need to make the business. Keep learning at the same time, because it's all topping up. It's all topping up in terms of your own resources, your own trust within yourselves, your skills, your abilities, what you're able to offer. And don't be afraid, don't hold back in terms of your light and what you can shine and offer. So yeah, but baby steps.
Yeah, yeah,
Baby steps is what I want to come back to.
definitely. I think I with the no and the rejection, everything, I do you know that saying, like a no you already have, a yes you can get. You
Yeah.
know, I don't know if you've heard that one, but Nisha, what's really
And
standing
adding,
out?
may I just add to that one?
Sure.
There's this book by Marie Forleo,
Oh,
and
okay, yeah.
a quote that says, "Everything is figure outable."
Yeah, it's
Right?
a good one.
So
It's a
even
good
if you
one.
think that the roads are blocked, you can figure a way out. You can figure a way through. So even just in terms of, asking for opportunities, etc., you learn from every no in terms of what could be done different, or putting a proposal through event because you're getting more mature, you're getting more comfortable in terms of what you're writing and putting pen to paper or the way you present yourself. So yeah, it's just little baby step, little tweaks here and there, and just keep going, one foot in front of the next.
Yeah. Amazing. Oh, I think there's a strong foundation that I'm like noticing from you, Nisha, that kind of if without that, strong value of joy, I think a lot of this becomes really muddled up, the how-tos. So I just
Perhaps,
wanted to point that out. Yeah.
perhaps because the foundation was pretty strong already, as I said, growing up it was there. It was just, with a different label. But then again, it's this whole debate, right? Nature, nurture, how much of it, and you can continue to nurture these skills. So even
Mm,
if you're coming with foundation that's a little bit shaky, it's still a skill. It's still a skill that you can learn if you just remain open, quite curious. And what I also love is just willing to explore and experiment. So, try different things, see what works, what doesn't work for you, tweak the process as you go along. And if you remain open to different experiences, to understanding, how life looks different, or just welcoming these perspectives, you can build that skill and gradually strengthen that skill. So in NLP, there's one of these sayings that goes, "The map is not the territory," because each of us are coming with our own maps of the world, of our beliefs, of our values, and what it could look like. But that's not the end all. Everyone is coming with their own frames of references. But if we remain open and curious and willing to create that space again, right? In coaching, creating the space to have those conversations, you can build that skill.
amazing. It's applicable to everything, even in the business sense, isn't it? The process of being open, staying curious. Is
Oh,
that,
totally.
yeah? Is that how
So
you,
much, so much unlearning in the process, right?
yeah, yeah,
From being employed in an employed role where you've got someone to support you with HR, someone to do marketing, sales, and these different hats, different departments and functions. The company has got its own brand values and brand colors, etc. And then here you are, one person wearing these multiple hats. A lot of unlearning, relearning. It's uncomfortable in many parts, but again, remaining open, willing to try, willing to learn, and also willing to ask for help because
mm,
you can't do it all. So I'd also say check out your local agencies. They may have like mentoring, business mentoring that may be available. I think there's lots of videos on the Animas campus as well, that you can reach out to. Is it Coaches Uncaged?
yes,
That
yes,
you can,
absolutely.
learn from what's happened. So at least you don't really start from a blank piece of paper. You have some references and places that you can be signposted to. And talk to your friends, find out what's worked for them. At least this way you get ideas and then just try and put that into practice and see what works for you, because it's different in terms of what's worked for somebody else instead of what has worked for you. So tweaking it, I think it's really important.
No one old template. It's very much,
It's
yeah,
personalization, right? That's what makes it real, your own blueprint, or you print, as I say it, in terms of, what you want to take forward.
amazing. New print. That's really good. That's really good. Okay, well, we're coming up to time. I'm wondering if there's anything else that is you know, within you that's alive in you that you want to share to anyone who's listening.
Yes, I think just enjoy the journey, enjoy the journey. Don't stress about what's going to happen when you finish the course, but really use that time to learn and absorb all that knowledge from your tutors, and look at the different styles that each of them come up with. I think that's what I really enjoyed with the Animas training. We had a variety of tutors on, very different topics, and each of them had their own style in terms of how they brought the coaching conversation alive, or how they would introduce something. So explore, pick and choose and learn to adapt it to your own. Keep honing your craft as you go along. Find out what really speaks to you and learn more about it, because as I said, you've got more in your playbook, and it's actually quite fun when you can customize your own little blend of things. And finally, trust in yourself, trust in your journey, that you will get through. And I'd like to share this favorite and very personal quote from Rumi, which says, "You are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in one drop." I'm just going to say that again. You are not a drop in the ocean, you're the entire ocean in one drop. And just reflecting on that and recognizing the depth of the ocean and how calm it can be, and the resource it brings, know that you are all of that, and that's just one drop of you.
That gave me goosebumps, actually, because you're never just by yourself. There's things are working around you, the support. Thank you so much, Nisha.
No, no, most welcome, and
That's,
I really wish everyone all the very best, and stay connected.
yeah, it would be great. Where can they find you, Nisha? Could you share your links? Yeah,
Yes, I'll definitely do that. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram, and you can also visit my website. She'll have my
and
email address as well.
amazing. And it's just in your handle, it's just Nisha Harichandran.
Yes, on LinkedIn, it's Nisha Harichandran. On Instagram, I'm Bohem Notes. So, Bohem being be open to your heart's experiences and moments. And
Amazing.
notes is
Okay.
literally the scripts that we are writing for ourselves. So, very much on the journey. So, Bohem Notes.
Thank you so much. I will put everything in the,
Yes,
the show
please.
notes below. Thank you so much again, Nisha.
Thank you, Adie. It was so lovely to chat with you.